on. Red is on.
Good evening and welcome to the May 8th, 2025 Frederick City Historic Preservation hearing, and I guess we don't actually have a workshop tonight. So, the technical qualifications of the Commission and staff are on file with the City of Frederick and are made a part of each and every case before the Commission. The Frederick City Historic Preservation Commission uses the guidelines adopted by the Mayor and the City Council and the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation, published by the U.S. Department of the Interior, National Park Service, and these guidelines are made a part of each and every case. All cases were duly advertised in the Frederick News Post in accordance with Section 301 of the Land Management Code. To do introductions, starting on my left, the audience's right, is the HPC Administrative Assistant Tansy Creighton. And then we have the Manager of Historic Preservation, Christina Martin-Koski, Historic Preservation Planner, Sarah Hoffeditz, Commissioner Eva Soller, Commissioner Paul Fitzgerald, myself, Commissioner Robert Van Rens, Commissioner Ann Hart, and then over on the my far right, the audience's far left, Assistant City Attorney Iris Anand. Everyone who has business before the Commission this evening or wishes to be heard, please rise and be sworn in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the responses given and statements made in this hearing before the Historic Preservation Commission will be the whole truth, nothing but the truth? If so, answer I do.
I do.
Thank you very much. It is the purpose of the Historic Preservation Commission to safeguard the historical and cultural heritage of the City of Frederick by preserving sites, structures, or districts that reflect elements of cultural, social, economic, political, archaeological, or architectural history, to stabilize and improve property values of such sites, structures, or districts, to foster civic beauty, to strengthen the local economy, and to promote the preservation and appreciation of such sites, structures, and districts for the education and welfare of the residents of the City of Frederick. In order to be eligible to vote on an application, A commissioner must have made the required site visit and attended any and all meetings at which such an application was discussed. In the event that a commissioner is absent from any such meeting, the commissioner may satisfy the attendance requirement by reviewing the record of that meeting. It is presumed if a commissioner makes no statement at this time that they have done so and are prepared to vote on the agenda this evening. That being said, are there any commissioners with statements of eligibility?
Mr. Chairman, I have one statement. I will recuse myself from HPC 25-90 at 104 West 4th Street.
All right, thank you for noting that. Moving on, are there any announcements this evening?
Yes, two announcements. First is if anybody parked in the parking garage tonight, whether you're a commission member or a member of the public, please see Tansy on your way out for parking validation. Second, just a final reminder that on Monday, May 12th, the City of Frederick is hosting our Sites of Enslavement Symposium at Visit Frederick on East Street. This is like the big final event to summarize the research findings of a historic context report into the history of slavery on the local level. We did find some really interesting information and definitely want to share that information with the public. And this is just one step of a multi-step effort to research, document, interpret, and educate the public on this interesting history. That is it for now. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to approval of minutes. The minutes from the April 24th, 2025 hearing and workshop. Commissioners, any questions regarding those minutes? Anything you'd like to see added or corrected?
Yes, sir. I have one correction for the workshop minutes. Item 1, HPC 25-72 at 173 West All Saints Street. First bullet, second paragraph, the applicant clarified that there is a ramp at the side of the building and the railing will be attached to the building along the ramp. And with that, I will move that we approve both the hearing and workshop minutes for April 24th, 2025.
All right, anything else?
I second the motion.
All right, thank you. All in favor, please raise your hands. And that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to HPC business, administrative approval report.
Yes, I want to enter the entire administrative approval report into the record and just note that staff reviewed and approved 36 applications administratively in the month of April.
All right, thank you very much. And then we have the certification of the 2024 report on historic preservation property tax credits and recommendation to the Director of Finance, Group 3.
Yes.
Which is a lot.
Excuse me. Staff will be submitting the 2024 Historic Preservation Property Tax Credit applications to the Historic Preservation Commission for certification in multiple groups. The Commission previously approved 9 applications at their April 10th meeting and 7 applications at their April 24th meeting in accordance with Section 810 of City Code. This third batch of applications is comprised of 11 applications and includes an investment amount of $751,064, with a recommended credit of $41,445.50. A detailed summary and photographs are attached. Staff requests that the Commission review and certify the attached recommendations. Staff will forward the results to the Director of Finance. The remaining applications will be submitted for certification at the next hearing on May 22nd, 2025. And in that report, I'll include a total summary of all the credits combined, just so the total results will be shared.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for staff regarding the the tax credit submissions.
No questions. Perhaps only comment, it really is pleasurable to see so much work being done on so many buildings. And with that, I will move that we certify the third batch of the 2024 Historic Preservation Property Tax Credit applications.
All right, and I will second that. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, that passes unanimously.
Abstain, since my name is on the list.
Fair enough. Okay, that is 3 in favor with Commissioner Fitzgerald abstaining since he is recipient, easy for you to say, recipient of one of the credits. Moving on to HPC 25-145DR, request for demolition review, 2 Monroe Avenue.
I'd like to enter the whole memo into the record. A request for demolition review has been submitted per section 423 of the Land Management Code for a dwelling at 2 Monroe Avenue. Planning staff has determined that the structure is in whole or in part 50 years older or older. Based on this evaluation, the Historic Preservation Commission is charged with determining if the property is potentially eligible for an individual historic designation. A property is eligible for designation for a historic preservation overlay if it is at least 50 years, retains historic integrity, or meets one of the following criteria listed in the memo. The dwelling at 2 Monroe Avenue was constructed in circa 1949. City directory and deed records suggest that the building was constructed by William and Florence Cullen, who purchased the property from William H. Freed. The Cullens owned the property until their death. Florence died in 1990, and the property was sold to Sean Mitchell and Larry Michael in 1992. The structure represents mid-20th century architecture and retains a good degree of historic integrity, maintaining elements of its original location, design, setting, materials, workmanship, feeling, and association, but lacks a high level of architectural significance. Research has not indicated that the property holds significance for an event or culture group, nor was any information found to indicate that it is associated with the lives of highlight significant persons. Staff finds that the property is not individually eligible for designation and recommends that the Commission not pursue a designation application. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Commissioners, any questions for staff regarding the demolition review application?
I think my only question is, this particular one is a full demolition. Is that what I understand?
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm familiar with case HPC 25-145DR located at 2 Monroe Avenue. I move to not pursue a designation application for historic preservation overlay.
I'll second.
All right, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in
Just
favor?
for, I'm sorry, just for the record, Mr. Chairman, I agree with staff's report that appears to be no high level of architectural significance on the property, nor any indicated significance for historic events or cultural groups or associated with the lives of significant persons.
Nope, it's okay. All right, hearing no further discussion, all in favor of not pursuing a designation for an HPO, please raise your hand. All right, and that passes unanimously. Thank you. And now we can remove one more headache from the weird numbering of properties on Monroe Avenue. Moving on to HPC 25-155DR, request for demolition review, 5740 Butterfly Lane.
Thank you. I want to enter my entire memo into the record. Just like the other case, a request for demolition has been submitted for demolition review according to Section 423 of the Land Management Code for 5740 Butterfly Lane. Staff has determined that the structure is in whole or in part 50 years of age or older, and based on this evaluation, the Commission is charged with determining the potential eligibility for designation. I am going to go directly to the historic context. The property is part of the Country Club Heights subdivision, which was platted in 1952. The neighborhood is located immediately south of the Samuel M. Summers Farm, which is part of the Maryland Register of Historic Places. However, neither the subject property nor the surrounding neighborhood has been documented by the Maryland State Inventory of Historic Places. Tax records indicate that the dwelling was constructed in 1954. It is first documented in a 1958 aerial image. Deed and newspaper records indicate that Ernest Osherman likely purchased the empty lot in 1954 and constructed the home as an investment property. The dwelling is a good representative example of suburban residential architecture by a well-known local building, but lacks the high level of architectural significance to be individually eligible. Staff has found no evidence that the site is associated with events or cultural groups that have made significant contributions to the broad patterns of history, or that it's associated with lives of significant persons, and therefore staff recommends the Commission not initiate an application for designation. And with that, I'll take any questions.
All right, thank you. Just to clarify for the record, this application is for the deck on the back of the house, not the entire property.
So that is the area of demolition, but the application would be for the building itself.
Okay.
So to clarify that,
Yes, ma'am.
the demolition is for the deck, not for the back of the house.
Right, but no matter if the demolition is partial or
Sure.
complete, the standards are the same. It's whether or not the building has enough significance and integrity to be eligible for designation.
Understood, understood. I just wanted to be clear that this one is partial and
Correct.
is just the deck.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman, I'm familiar with case HBC 25-155 DR, located at 5740 Butterfly Lane. I move to not pursue a designation application for historic preservation overlay.
And I will second.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. And that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on, any items for the consent agenda this evening?
None tonight.
Outstanding. And do we have any continuances this evening?
None tonight.
Thank the Lord. All right, moving on to cases to be heard. HPC 25-67, 200 East Patrick Street, partial demolition. Ms. Martinkowski, take it away.
Thank you. First, I want to enter the entire staff report into this record. I also want to acknowledge that this project was previously workshopped on April 10th. And at the previous meeting on April 24th, the Commission reviewed the proposed demolition and the building as a whole and identified this as a contributing resource. So this is the second meeting where the Commission is actually making a determination if the proposed partial demolition is appropriate. Because this was previously workshopped and discussed in great detail at two past meetings, I am going to try to keep my staff report to the point. The partial demolition application concerns removal of an areaway to the basement, masonry and concrete stoop, the roof structure in the north end of the building, and a chimney. Just as a reminder, the areaway and concrete stoop, we really don't have a great deal of information about the age or age of these elements, but they are not terribly character defining of the building. They're located on the side and not terribly visible, on the, at least in part. The roof and chimney structure, we do have a structural engineer's report kind of explaining why the demolition is necessary. The application shows that the existing roof system will be removed and carefully to protect the existing parapet walls, and really that there will be no visual impact from the street from the change. The removal of the areaway, the concrete stoop, the roof, and the chimney, when considered with the replacements plan, which is outlined in HPC 2568, will not alter the resource to the extent that the building will no longer be contributing. In fact, many of these changes will contribute to the long-term preservation of the building. With all of this in mind, staff recommends that the commission approve the partial demolition plan outlined in the application, conditioned upon the approval of a replacement plan and associated permit.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for staff regarding the staff report? All right, hearing none. Is the applicant here this evening? If you gentlemen like to introduce yourselves, please.
Marty Bates from Bates Architects. Garrett Schaefer, Bates Architects.
All right, thank you. Do you have anything you'd like to add to the staff report or any questions for staff regarding it?
No, just again, thanks for the commission and staff's help on this project, and we agree with the staff report.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant? All right, I mean, we workshopped this pretty thoroughly, and I don't see anything in here that we didn't discuss at workshop and didn't sort of go over pretty well. So I don't personally have any questions that weren't already addressed. All right, seeing nothing further at the moment, if you'd like to be seated, we'll sort of go through the rest of the process. Are there any members of the public here this evening who'd like to speak regarding this application? All right, seeing none. Commissioners, any thoughts, comments, discussion?
I think my thoughts and my comments are, yes, we have workshopped this, and I think we're in a good place. And with that, I am prepared to make a motion.
All right,
Mr. Chairman, I'm familiar with HPC 25-67 at 200 East Patrick Street. And I move that we approve the partial demolition plan as outlined in the application with the replacement plan and associated permit.
are you moving to approve the replacement plan and associated permit at the same time?
I'd
Because
like-
that's what your motion does. Let's reword that just a little bit.
Okay, let's do that. So I move that we approve the partial demolition as outlined in the application. Have it.
Contingent upon the approval of the replacement plan?
There you go. Contingent
Thank
upon
you.
the approval of the replacement plan and associated permit.
Outstanding. Let's go with that.
I second the motion.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. And that passes unanimously. All right, moving on to the replacement plan. HPC 25-68, 200 East Patrick Street, rehabilitation. Once again, Ms. Martinkowski.
Thank you. And again, I'm going to enter the entire staff report in the record. Acknowledge that this was previously workshopped at the April 10th meeting. Much of the application remained the same with minor adjustments to address staff comments and commission comments from the workshop. The application includes a new roof structure with a roof hatch and railing, new concrete area stair, modifying the openings and installing a new metal door, masonry repair where previously demolished addition connecting to the extant structure, paint removal with the use of chemical stripper, and to modify the previously approved design on the east elevation. Now, this last bullet point, to modify the previously approved design on the east elevation, that wasn't previously workshopped. So everything else is very much consistent with our previous conversations. So I'm going to limit my comments to the paint removal and this east elevation revision. So in regards to the paint removal, the applicant is proposing to remove non-historic paint from a portion of the east and south facades using Peel Away 1 paint remover, a product that we have seen in use previously. On April 9th, 2025, staff issued approval for a 2x2 test patch. No sandblasting or high-pressure water washing can be used. This work can happen at any time. Product literature was provided for the paint removal system. Peel Away products have been used for historic restoration work and lead abatement, and is appropriate for wood, brick, stone, metal, and most plaster substrates. The use of high-pressure water washing should be avoided. The guidelines state that the Commission may approve water washing using the lowest pressure possible between 100 and 300 psi at the nozzle, with the nozzle being no closer than 8 inches from the surface being cleaned. So those are the general standards that the Commission applies. In terms of the east elevation changes, the applicant seeks to revise the previously approved plan and change 2 windows which were previously altered. The proposed storefront openings at these locations actually better align with the historic patterns of the original structure. The applicant did provide historic images and then architectural drawings A2.2 and A2.4, which really helps illustrate, I think, what they're trying to bring to the Commission's approval, that these changes are to window openings that have already been altering actually bring the building back closer to its original design. And I think this is something that the Commission should embrace. I think this is a good idea. Based on the resubmission application, staff is recommending approval of the application with the condition that the applicant complete a 2x2 test patch with the Peel Away 1 paint remover and submit photographic documentations to staff for final review and approval. The test patch should not show any signs of damage to the brick. Water washing should not exceed 300 psi to remove the paint remover. And that's it. With that, I'll take any questions.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, any questions regarding the staff report? All right, hearing none. Would the applicant please come forward? And welcome back, gentlemen. Any questions or comments regarding the staff report?
No, we agree with the staff report again, and again, thanks for all the work. Appreciate the last minute change to those 2 windows, but I think you'll find that photograph of the trolley car parked in front of those doors explains why that we could never figure out why those 2 windows were there like that.
No, that actually was, that photograph was very illustrative. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was, and I don't, it might have been included in the packet online, but I don't remember seeing it. So having it here tonight and looking at it going, that was the thing that was missing, or at least that I hadn't seen before. So. All right, commissioners, any other questions or comments for the applicant? All right, go ahead and be seated again. Thank you. Are there any members of the public here this evening who wish to speak regarding this rehabilitation application? Hearing none. Commissioners, thoughts, comments?
Just to say, again, pretty well workshopped, and the proposed changes for the windows are appropriate, I feel.
I agree on both counts.
Absolutely. Anytime we're adding windows back, I think it's a plus.
Please do.
Since I tried to do it the first time. Mr. Chairman, I'm familiar with HPC 25-68 at 200 East Patrick Street. Let me see if I get the words right here. I move that we approve the application with the conditions that the applicant completes a 2x2, 2-foot by 2-foot test patch using the Peel Away 1 paint remover, and submit a photographic documentation to staff for final review and approval. And the test patch shall not show signs of damage to the brick. And any water washing will not exceed 300 psi to remove the paint remover.
All right.
I second the motion.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Hearing none. All in favor, please raise your hand. And that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to HPC 25-71, 301 West Patrick Street. Rehabilitation. Ms. Hoffeditz.
I'd like to enter the whole staff report into the record. This application concerns the proposal to install signage, removal of paint on brick, install metal railing at 3 locations, and the replacement of 2 vinyl windows with wooden windows, non-clad. For masonry, the commission will not approve the removal of paint from a brick building if the removal will cause damage or compromise its integrity. The commission may approve the use of chemical stripping method after it has been approved and review it as a successful test patch. Cleaning masonry. Masonry shall only be cleaned to arrest deterioration or to remove severe soiling. If the commission finds that the masonry cleaning is inappropriate, the gentlest methods possible must be used. For railings, porches and stoops must not be added to character-defining facades and pictorial or documentary evidence does not indicate their previous existence. Features such as turned posts and brackets must not be added unless documentary or physical evidence proves they existed previously. For compliance with ADA, the Americans with Disability Act, talking's hard today, establishes standards for accommodating the movement of disabled people to and through buildings. ADA requirements should be met in a manner that results in the least amount of damage to historic buildings while providing adequate access to the disabled. For windows replacement windows for wood windows must be all window without cladding. Vinyl clad and metal windows will not be approved in the place of wooden windows. Metal windows can also be used in place of metal windows. Windows that have already been replaced, second or later generation replacements may be replaced with the windows that incorporate energy-saving features such as insulated glass. However, such windows cannot be vinyl, clad, or metal intended to resemble wood, and they must incorporate acceptable features. For signs, appropriate size, scale, and design, signage must not be obscured or overwhelm the architectural details. The size and location of the signage must be compatible with the architectural scale and design of the building. The city code specifies the amount of signage allowed and parameters regarding its placement. However, the commission does not have to allow the maximum signage allowed by the code. The commission considers the style of signage, its impact on the building, its placement, and other aesthetic factors. Going on to staff comments. Based on the application, material, and site visit, staff can provide the following comments. For masonry, applicant is proposing removal of paint from the brick masonry. Staff issued test patch approval on April 28th. The test patch will determine the usability of the POA product and if it will cause further damage to the historic brick. From staff, site visit, applicant confirmed that they would like to remove paint from the original front section of the building if brick conditions are favorable. The remaining of the building towards the rear will be repainted and the front section will have paint removed. The use of power washing during the paint removal process is not supported by the guidelines. Railings. Railings are proposed in 3 locations: front entryway, apartment entryway on the east elevation, and on the rear porch. Staff does not find any inconsistency with the proposed railing in location. The railing proposed is a metal black finished handrail. The front railing is to be anchored into pre-existing anchor holes. The remaining railings are to be anchored within the masonry steps and not the brick masonry. For windows, 2 1/1 windows on the east elevation of the building are of vinyl material, one on the upper gable and the other on the first story of the east elevation. The applicant proposes replacing the windows with wood 1/1 windows, not clad. Staff finds that the replacement of the 2 vinyl windows with wooden windows appropriate and consistent with the guidelines. Staff notes that the applicant removed the proposed replacement of the wood second floor window from the application. For the signs, the proposed signs for the property are a hanging sign from an existing bracket, window signage, and a metal sign. The proposed signs are consistent with the guidelines are within the sign allotment for the property. The applicant notified staff that proposed sign design and locations may change. Such amendments can be addressed through a minor modification form. Staff assessment is based off of the current application material. Staff recommends the commission approve the application with the following condition: that the applicant completes a 2x2 test patch using POA 1 paint remover and submit photographic documentation to staff for final review and approval. The test patch shall not show signs of damage to the brick. Water washing shall not exceed 300 psi to remove the paint remover. And with that, I'll take any questions.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for staff regarding the staff report? All right, hearing none. Is the applicant here this evening? Please turn the mic on and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Darius Mark, property owner of 301 West Patrick Street.
All right, and do you have any questions for staff regarding the report or anything you'd like to add?
No, I appreciate them coming out and doing the site visit to actually take a look at what we're proposing.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant? All right, it's a pretty straightforward application. I don't see anything that's really difficult to understand in it or anything else. So, seeing no questions, go ahead and please be seated. Are there any members of the public here this evening who wish to speak regarding this application? Hearing none. Commissioners, thoughts, comments, questions?
Probably my only comment is I appreciate the work that you're proposing. It's just a really nice building. It's very inviting, and to have some life back on that corner is just excellent. So I do appreciate that. Guess they're all looking at me. Mr. Chairman, I'm familiar with HPC 25-71 at 301 West Patrick Street. Of course, I'll read this one. It's very similar to the last one. And I move that we approve the application with the following condition, that the applicant completes a 2-foot by 2-foot test patch of Peel Away 1 paint remover and submit photographic documentation to staff for final review and approval. The test patch shall show no sign of damage to the brick, and any water washing shall not exceed 300 psi for removing the paint remover.
Thank you.
I second the motion.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. And that passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Give me a moment. I have to gather all my...
Take the time you need.
Because I'm not coming back. It'll save you time.
Do, 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 do,
Thanks,
do.
Buddy. That's awful. I thought so, too. Y'all have a good
All right, moving on to HPC 25-90, 104 East 4th Street, rehabilitation. Ms. Hoffeditz.
I'd like to enter the whole staff report into the record. This application concerns the proposal to install 3 Velux skylights, not starlights, and replace existing standing seam roof red with standing seam metal in a bone white color. For roofing, standing seam metal should be replaced in kind using, unless evidence exists for earlier roofing material. Keynote to follow is that factory finishes must reflect traditional hues, galvanized green and red. Changes to roofs in general, alterations or changes that radically change, damage, or destroy the roof's defining historic characteristics are not permitted. Skylights and sun tunnels may not be installed on street-facing elevations and will be approved on side and rear-facing roofs on a case-by-case basis. Skylights and light tunnels cannot be added to front elevations. Installation of low-profile skylights and light tunnels may be appropriate on the side of or rear of the buildings on a case-by-case basis. They should have minimum visual impact from the public right-of-way. Please note that I also included deviation from the guidelines in the staff report. Staff comments: staff does not find any inconsistencies with the proposed replacement of gutters, installation of 3 skylights, and the replacement of the standing seam metal roof other than the proposed color. The proposed skylights are located on the rear slope of the gabled roof and have low visibility. The proposed Velux curb-mounted skylights are consistent with the guidelines. Per the guidelines, metal standing seam roof factory finishes must be either green, red, or galvanized hues. The proposed white standing seam roof is inconsistent with the design standards. The shed roof capping the rear L roof slopes towards the inner yard and is not visible from the public right-of-way. White roofing material will not be visible from the public right-of-way. Staff recommend the commission to review and reference the deviation guidelines if they find the white roof color appropriate for the rear L. The gabled roof is highly visible and contributes to the integrity of the streetscape. Traditional roof colors are encouraged. Staff recommends the approval of the application with the condition that the roof color be of a green, red, or galvanized color. And with that, I'll take any questions.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for staff regarding the staff report?
Was there a reason for the bone white color, or just an aesthetic choice?
I did have previous conversations with the owner of the property, and from my understanding, it was a phone call conversation. It was more of a to help limit the heat in the home. Instead of having a darker roof color, was to help, with the circulation, with the Velux skylights as well.
Yeah, light-colored, high albedo roofs make a significant difference in historic properties. So,
We tend to recommend galvanized as the closest thing to white.
yeah. All right. Any other questions? Is the applicant here this evening? Yes.
PJ with PJ's Roofing.
All right. Any questions or comments regarding the staff report? Anything you'd like to add?
No, I agree with it all. I
Yep.
agree with it all. No, my homeowner, they just would like the bone white color. It sounds like everything else you guys agree with, the skylights, but the color is what we're hung up on. The homeowner would like that for reflectivity of sunlight.
Which is a perfectly understandable sentiment, and there are instances with TPM roofing and things like that where white is an appropriate color, just unfortunately not with this. So the closest to white really that's appropriate is galvanized, which is understandably not the same thing. I mean, they're, very distantly, shoutingly related, but not obviously equivalent.
Now, there are two sections of roof here. One that's gabled, that's pretty highly visible, and then there's a second roof that's more flat and not really visible. Do you want to have would you have different feelings on different parts of the roof having different colors potentially?
Personally, I'd have a preference to keep it all the same.
Okay.
I don't know if the applicant has any concerns about using different colors or not, but
I have no concerns about using different colors. It's purely aesthetic.
I mean, I don't know if this is recording or not. Since it's not visible from the street and it is the second portion, I am more inclined to agree that it's not as important, but it is also part of the historic building and part of the roofscape of Frederick, and I think that there's a reason that we have the colors that we have to keep the whole town in keeping with the historic center. So I'm against that one. I think it should just all be the same.
I think that's a valid concern in that Frederick actually has a roofscape, I think is a good term for it, and it isn't something that we have really had to articulate until fairly recently with the advent of things like drone photography, where suddenly the view from the equivalent of the top of the tallest spire has become a very commonly seen image of the historic district. And it behooves us to start to think about that as part of that view that we need to keep in mind while we're thinking about the view shed that we want to protect.
And yes, while I understand the value of trying to reflect heat off the roof, this is relatively small, maybe 400 or 500 square feet, that I think the impact is, negligible. And certainly I think a galvanized roof, although certainly a green or red would be appropriate, but a galvanized would help more in that regard than the other colors. But do you know if the owner is adverse to green or red or galvanized?
I'm not 100% sure. I would imagine if you guys don't approve the bone white, they'd probably go with the mill finished, the galvanized.
And just a comment on the skylights themselves, very sophisticated solar venting. Of course, the venting of the skylights have been around, but we'll have a discussion here. I guess my concern is the profile. I mean, to me, 8.5 inches is kind of a little bit beyond the borderline of a low profile. Maybe my colleagues here would disagree, but we can have that discussion. But and they would be pretty visible, even though they're on the backside of the main roof. But I just raised that as a comment. But I understand wanting to have the convenience of a venting skylight and something that's solar powered is today's technology, so.
I guess my question is visible from where?
Well, from the public way, whatever that alley.
Yeah,
was
but
that?
from what public way? I mean, if they were on the front gable, I would say 100% that would be an issue. There would be definitely visible, but I'm not sure on the back gable what public way they would be particularly visible from, unless you were really looking hard for them. I mean, almost anything is going to be visible if you really want to see it, but I don't see where they'd be intrusive. And if I'm wrong, maybe I'm not. Maybe there's something I'm missing.
The name of the alleyway escapes me. Do you know what the alley, the
I think it's Kleinhardt's. Kleinhardt's Alley.
Kleinhardt's alley? So it is visible there, and certainly something low profile wouldn't be objectionable. I guess I'm a little more concerned about the overall height, that it would be more visible, even though, yeah, I think low profile would be great. No real issues. I guess my only real issue is just the height of it, and if that makes it more prominent from the public, from the alleyway there.
It's only gonna stick up probably about 2.5 to 3 inches more than the normal curb mount skylight, so it's not a huge difference.
I mean, I can see how 8 inches is gonna be a pretty big amount, but considering that it's a pretty minimal intrusion to the building to add the skylights, and they have a pretty functional purpose, I'm okay with the skylights. I think just the color of the roof is the bigger issue, because that's gonna be bright and reflective, and I think you're gonna notice that more than you would really the skylights popping up.
Yeah, I don't personally have a problem with the skylights on the rear gable. Again, if it were the front gable, I would say no. That's a no fly. But on the rear gable, I don't see them as being an intrusion on the streetscape. I don't think of the view from the alley as a streetscape. The alley it's an access road. It's a utility way. It's not a primary thoroughfare.
I was just looking, PJ, on the skylight itself. I mean, if you went with a galvanized roof, I'm trying to look for if there's color options on the skylight, or would it, if it's bronze or something that would stick out more than?
They are all bronze, the Velux medium bronze. They don't give us a color option on the skylights.
Just for my own education, that's just for this particular type of skylight. Other types that you usually provide, I think they have a white.
So over the years, Velux has pretty much bought up all the shingle or skylight manufacturers.
Okay.
There is a skylight manufacturer in Easton, Maryland. It's called Starlight, but they're bubble skylights, and they're not going to offer the solar venting. So pretty much Velux is our only option for what this customer would like.
Thank you.
If we're moving into discussion, I did have a question for staff and for my fellow commissioners here. talk about red, green. Of course, with the Englert color chart, there's a couple different reds and several different greens, and I know what we're looking for. If someone's coming in with an odd color choice, if they might, pick a green, technically green, but that doesn't really fit with the overall kind of nature of the roofscape. But I don't necessarily want to get specific with an actual color, or maybe we do, so.
See, for the, don't even think it's on. For the guidelines, it's just hues of those variations of color. So a hue of the green. I know for when it comes to like shingle roof that we don't like the pastel color, so I'm assuming that also would apply to the standing seam. So hues of those.
The look of pain on Christina's face is
I keep hearing
very
her go.
instructive.
This conversation hasn't happened in a while, but many years ago, I just remember having a sit-down internal meeting of this very same, complex question. And I think our interpretation is, if it's green, especially if it's metal and it's supported by the guidelines, we approve it.
What I've understood over the years, it's like the forest green or the Hartford green, because there's like an Everglade moss that I guess you could call it a green, but it's an
Yeah, I think
awfully ugly green. But so that's what I've been under the impression over the years.
and that might
that
be why we always
Hartford
see those
or forest.
those colors. Yeah, we rarely get the oddball green, so it doesn't pop up too often.
Well, to kind of bring it back, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal if the skylight frame color is the bronze against the galvanized or the red or the green or whatever they end up going with. They'll be visible, but I mean, they are windows. I think it's, again, a minimal intrusion on the roof. I mean, they're taking the whole roof off and replacing it, so it's not, I don't think we're necessarily concerned with, historic material specifically. I think that if it's necessary and it's functional, and it's not visible from the street very much, I think it's okay.
And if the contrast is that great, I mean, God made rattle cans for a reason.
And, so one option that the commission can give as part of their motion is just that product literature or a confirmation of the color is submitted to staff for final approval, so it's incorporated. Or if you're comfortable, you could just give the general approval of any red, green, or galvanized. So I guess those are your two options if you're not supporting the white.
All right. Any further questions for the applicant? All right, go ahead and be seated. Are there any members of the public here this evening who wish to speak regarding this application? And hearing none. All right, commissioners. Any discussion, thoughts, comments? Please do.
Mr. Chairman, I'm familiar with case HPC 25-90, located at 104 West 4th Street. I move to approve the application with the condition that the roof color be a green, red, or galvanized color.
Seconded.
All right, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. That ends our hearing for this evening. Is there any members of the public here this evening who wish to speak generally regarding any of the proceedings tonight? No other members of the public here to speak. That would be the end of tonight.